Welcome back to Tabletop Time. Last episode, we built this board, which is one of the cities of the Sisters of the Old Blood. This has already turned into a fantastic little atmospheric piece. The fairly dubious River of Blood. I hope that the city is still populated after all that. But anyway, it's looking a bit barren. It's not looking like much of a city, right? There's not really any buildings. So it's time to fix that in today's episode. You know what? I'm gonna show you. This is the board. We're gonna have some rundown ramshackle buildings on the lower levels and then mansions up above. This is like a kill team board. People are gonna go pew, 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 pew. So I need some line of sight blockage right here. And before anyone gets all up in arms, yes, it's a kill team board, but yes, it's a very narrative board. What we are here to do is have fun and build stuff. But before we do that, we need to go and unwrap a new toy. This video is sponsored by Bamboo Labs. So this is the toy that Bamboo has sent us. This is the X2D, D for the dual hot end, and it's the dual hot end which is the interesting part about this printer. A lot of other printers you can change between colors. This one, well, it can do that. The second nozzle on this has been designed specifically for printing supports. The idea is that PLA is the standard stuff that you print with. PETG is a different plastic that doesn't like to bond with it. The support holds it up and then it falls away, supposedly. A machine of the future and supreme convenience. So I'm going to put on just a basic support test and I'm gonna see if this works. It just finished, it's still hot. Like that. Oh, that removed it. Oh, cool. See how well it comes off. Oh, I just bumped it basically. Whoa, that is so smooth. That's like nearly as smooth as the top. That's awesome. I'm glad it's decided to film this. This is just default settings. I haven't changed anything. Check this out. It just like fell off. So those supports there, right?
That's how it printed?
Yeah.
Are you freaking kidding me?
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I was just saying, this is the default settings.
Oh, hell yeah. That's freaking sick, dude.
All right, Bamboo, you win this round. For the buildings themselves, I scoured online for what I felt fit best this city that we'd be constructing. I ended up with an assortment which really carries a variety of interesting textures and building materials. And so I ended up with structures from the Ulfheim range from Code 2, a literal Bloodborne-inspired cathedral by Solaris Game Studio. This is gonna look awesome right in the middle of the board. And also a selection of buildings from the Narrows series, which is by Tideworld Studio. Also the creator of all of the walls that are already on this board. And then after that, you'd think it would be a very straightforward process of throwing things all down in print beds and going print, 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 print. But no, there was one additional change that I was going to make to a lot of these buildings, and that is to slice the backsides of them off. Now, why I'm doing this is, one, to make the edge of the board look nice. Basically, it's going to line up nicely with the edge, the outer boundary of the board here. But also, it's going to allow me to do something very cool with the lighting at the end with all the reveals. And so once I've measured and sliced within the Bamboo software, I can then finally proceed and start printing like an absolute madman. Of course, I'm going to save some buildings and not cut those, as I want some extra buildings, firstly, to put in the middle of the board, naturally, but also if I have some left over, they can go in the background, creating this sense of immersion and depth in the camera shots I'm going to create. That's more of a YouTuber-y thing than an actual practical application of houses and structures for a board build. But I guess you're just going to have to wait and see if you think it's worth the effort. Is done. Whoa, hello. Anyway, I was gonna say, how easily the supports of the PETG come off. They're still on here. Is there? Oh. Oh, look at that, it's got like the interior of the tower. All right, all our buildings are finally done. We've got all our selections from the Tudor style, a bit more mortar and wood on those, to some really nice stone pieces that really give this. Dark Victorian is basically the architectural vibe we're going for. This is all for that nice shot in the background. However, you may have noticed that all these have standard supports. That's because these were not done on the X2D. So there's a lot of manual cleanup that isn't just going to fall lovingly off this. It should still be easy, like a really quick job. But it's time to sit back, because while this is going to take me a while, your wait is going to be over just like oh, that took an hour. That's not too bad. Let's get the board. Ta-da! Immediately you can see that these will nicely go on the sides, so you can get like a really nice facade. Oh, I also have our centerpieces. We've got the tower that goes straight there on top of this outcropping, and then we have cathedral. Yes, yes. here. The idea is basically to build the city up towards the back here. Oops. Timber! So once I've established where all the buildings can come up to, I can build this platform. Basically just going to support the buildings. I don't need to do anything fancy with it. Keep it nice and black. So let's do that. All right, I've finished my very simple shelving at the back here that'll just give me a bit more room to place a few buildings. We'll see how that all comes together later when we put the stuff on. However, I can sort of show. So that'll go like here, a few more buildings here, here. I'm gonna get some building blocks, basically, and have more buildings at a higher elevation over here, so it looks like the skyline sort of keeps continuing into the background. Will it get in the way of gameplay? Probably, don't care. That's Dave and Jen's problem to work out, but it's gonna look so good. However, I wanna do a bit more here. Give it that homemade touch. Make it feel like it's been lived in. So I thought that I'd get some like barrels and create some random debris, and also I think some iron wrought street signs will be absolutely perfect. So I'm gonna go build some of those. Now I feel that the board is starting to feel a bit too old Gothic, a bit too grimdark, and while I definitely want aspects of that for sure, I do want to bring the city forward a couple of centuries to get that sophistication and splendor that's associated with the Victorian era. And so I thought, what better way to represent that is with some really nice street signs. You know, the ones with the iron wrought filigree sort of emblazoning and decorating all of the signs and sides of things. That's what I want to capture here, and I'm going to use a bunch of old Warhammer bases as the foundation, some different bits of plastic card, and some skewers. Tall enough that looks really grand and imposing, but isn't going to get too in the way of people's hands as they move miniatures around. For the street sign itself, I had an idea of using some milliput to make some fancy little things, but then I had a bit of inspiration using just plastic card again. Very carefully using a knife and a small drill bit, I created a nice wavy pattern inspired by the Victorian architecture of that time, and then slowly refined it. This resulted in a couple mistakes and some parts cut off, but eventually I got an effect that I was really happy with. Glue them on, and then it's time to paint them. These are going to end up being a nice dark metal, a base coat of black, and then some simple stippling to really tie it into the rest of the board. The signs are now done, they look amazing, but I want just a little bit more detail on the board itself, so I printed off some simple barrels and crates. I'm going to paint these up with some browns, and these are ready to also populate the board. And that'll do it for all the small parts. Time to work on the big things. All right, all the lampposts and little train are done. It's time to paint some terrain. Let's go prime it. To match the rest of the existing board, I'm starting off by painting everything black, even the stuff that was printed in black. However, that does mean that I don't have to be quite as picky about getting paint into every single tiny recess. Then I'm going to start layering different colors just like I did with the stone, as a lot of these buildings have stone. The dark Victorian style is inspired by Gothic, but it has a bit more contemporary color and architecture to it. So I'm going to have a bit more nuance in some of the stone here. Some buildings will be a bit lighter, some a bit more saturated, just to make them stand out from each other a little bit. And the same will go for the wood, which is the next step. Some are going to be a bit of a deeper brown, some are going to be a much more ruddy color. Again, this is for variation, but you can also introduce a bit of narrative here. These buildings were perhaps built at different times, or they used different trees, which will overall result in a more nuanced and interesting city. The roofs themselves are also going to be quite interesting colors. I want this town to be dark, but also have a bit of life to it. This isn't an abandoned, decrepit town. Hundreds, thousands of people live here. It's just that the setting is a bit dour. And so I'm going to use greens, blues, magentas, purples, making sure not to go too vibrant, but I definitely want to have that injection of color and interest here. After that absolute slog and painting all that color, it's time to start picking out some of the lighter colors, like the whitewashed walls. These walls and panels will really help to separate it from that just plain Gothic vibe. All right. We have our giant city of stuff. That's not quite done. We need to do the final steps, which is where everything will come to life. Everything's a little bit blurry around the edges from all the airbrushing, so we need to pick out all those edges and bring them back up. The roofs, the wood, really pick out all the details. And then for a final flourish, I've got a couple of extra bonus things that I want to do to this chapel to make it really, really stand out. So, dry brushing time. Now with all that finally blocked out, it is time to start working on all the details and really making this all come to life. The details on these buildings have come out so well in the prints that I just really want to enunciate all these details that we have. And so I'm going to go absolutely crazy dry brushing all of these buildings. Picking out the stone, again, I'm going to use different colors here for a bit more nuance. Then for our centerpiece, this little chapel here, it has all these interesting windows and designs on them, and I'm gonna turn them all into stained glass windows. Because what Jen is definitely known for in her Sisters of the Old Blood is stained glass windows. Whether it's on building windows or on the resplendent shields of her warriors, this injects so much vibrance and punch that I simply have to include it here. And using the exact same colors that she used on her sisters, we're finally done, and it's time to start putting things down on the board. Ta-da! We have a full city with extras. Hope you enjoyed those cinematic reveals. That was a lot of fun to put together with the additional scenery to make it really feel enclosed, which is totally a word. But over here we have our sisters and even some kindred of the abyss, all ready for a little battle within the confines of one of the sisters' cities. This came together so quickly once I started putting things on the board. Just the additions of little pieces like barrels stacked up, crates, the little street signs. I'm so proud of those. All of this I just sort of could manage on my own with, you know, the help of technology and a little bit of creativity. This is fantastic. We've got our cathedral with the stained glass windows. We've got little inns, all the different buildings with all the funny different colored roofs. Our centerpiece tower on the outcrop. I'm so glad that actually turned out. I spent so much time in the last video talking about how there was gonna be something there. This is basically a lighthouse over the river of blood. And I hope this inspired you to create something for yourself and to check out the Sisters of the Old Blood. Links are in the description if you want to support making miniatures, and if you want to support us, of course. Please check that out. It would mean the world to us. What also means the world to us is our patrons. Thank you, you are the lifeblood of this channel, just like the blood running through the middle of this city. Except you're a lot nicer to engage with, to be honest. The Patreon makes this channel go around, and we would not be able to do half the things we have without you. So if you want to chat with us more one-on-one and engage with some of our activities in the Patreon Discord, please consider signing up. And a huge thank you to Bamboo, who sponsored this video and made all these prints possible. I managed to get all of these done to such a high quality, and the PetG stuff was actually really cool. It saved a lot of time. So hooray for technology. I can't wait to show Dave and Jen what we built here, and I hope you will continue to wish them well in the comments. FYI, they're not sick, they had a child if you're out of the loop, so there we go, context. It's the baby that does the sick.